So tell us a bit about your background and how you came to be working with MOSTYN on the Open.
So I work as a co-director for a gallery called Conroy, which is based in East London.
Okay.
It's an exhibition programme that's based around performative practices. Alfredo asked me if I wanted to be part of the selecting committee as part of the MOSTYN Open. So yeah, that's it.
Have you been involved in any procedures before? Is this something you've done before, or?
Quite a lot of them actually. That's kind of.
Do you run one at the East London Gallery, or is this?
No,
something?
not at Conroy, but usually I'm invited by organisations to kind of set up either a new way of working on an open, or working on an existing open format. So I've worked for Chatham Historic Dockyard. Within that gallery or museum, we're responding to the context of the Maritime Museum. Also Pump House Gallery, which was a very different open. We were involving people in the selection process and the curatorial process.
Oh, how did you do that?
So we worked with a group, so we selected a group. So the first group was young people with learning difficulties, and we would invite them to come along. I would talk to them about what it is to curate, what it is to select works, and then we would put a proposal out, an open call. Artists would submit based on an idea or a thematic. The first thematic was traditions. And then through a series of 6 workshops, I would work with the group of young people to select works, and then they would come with me into the gallery, and we would position them across the 3 floors of Pump House Gallery.
Okay, that's a different approach, so it's really interesting to hear how other people do it as well.
Yeah.
So you were one of 4 selectors for the MOSTYN Open.
Yeah.
And which stage of the process did you come into? So there's a blind selection of the works that was done originally. So I can say from what I know of the process is that we all works were submitted, they were anonymised, and then a film reel was created or a show reel was created of all the works in order to which the assessors then sat in a room at various stages and discussed, debated.
Yeah. I suppose there's the first selection. So it was Alfredo Camarotti, who's the director here, and myself, and we had 700 plus submissions to go through, and it was a blind submission, so no names, just a series of images and a sense of kind of thinking through the works quite quickly. But you get a sense of the works through the images. There was up to 5 images for each artist, and then once we'd done the first selection, so I think we got it down to around 350, maybe less, maybe around 280. That's when Jennifer and Katerina joined in, and we went through the process of kind of going through it again and thinking about themes and kind of works that might go together. But it's very much a very comprehensive selection to get it down to 100 and then down to 35.
Where do you even start? I mean, you've got this with this open. There's no thematic approach. It's literally a very genuine open of everything. You've got all these different formats, you've got these different work presentations, all these different styles. They're all in one image that you're then seeing on a screen. How on earth do you sort of go mentally start that process of getting that yardstick in for what's really good out of being submitted? And
Well, I don't think it's necessarily really good. I think after a certain amount, especially going through the first selection, you kind of start building kind of threads that draw things together, and if you get a sense of maybe, especially in this open, there's this kind of feminine, there's maternal threads that are going through in some of the works. There's maybe a colour palette that seems to work together, but the strength of the artworks is mainly based on the documentation, but also the work itself is generally very clear. Even though you may not have a description, you can really get a sense of what it's trying to do. So the process of selection is intuition, and I think that's based on many of the selectors have been working in the art world for a while. I'm not going to say how long. And I think once you've kind of worked with many different artists and you have a comprehensive understanding of quite a lot of issues that are going around today, then you get to that point where you're like, okay,
really exciting and
and you're like, I really want this, and then all of a sudden you compare it to work that maybe you've seen a little bit further on that might be in the maybe pile.
Yeah.
And then you go, oh no, that has to come in because it seems to work well with these works. So
it becomes contextual, not just individual work on its own merit.
No,
You're thinking about the show as a whole from the minute you start.
That was my
That's your
idea
approach.
when I was when I was coming across it. I mean, sometimes it is just, this looks like a really interesting work, I want to know more, and I think but then, you know, as you say, it's from different levels. These are emerging artists to very established artists, and I think the pleasure of an open call is putting those together and being able to have the freedom to do that, because it's not always possible when you're organising a programme.
No, absolutely. And I think that's it, isn't it? I was just talking to Lynn in marketing before, you know, basically, 34 artists are participating in the work. It's literally a global reach. We have people, I understand, coming in from Australia, from Germany, you know, and then we have 7 artists from Wales as well.
Yes.
Now, I mean, bear in mind, you don't know the contextual background for these artists or where they're from originally. That's a really broad geographic spread, isn't it?
Yes, well, I think MOSTYN has that reputation as someone that's coming from outside of Llandudno. I think I understand the reach, and especially with the selecting committee being able to put it out there to their networks, but also I think that's tantamount to what MOSTYN does within Wales, to kind of promote itself and show the best of what's going on locally. A
lot of opens there's obviously a temptation to put the crowd pleasers in.
Yeah.
And painting has been out of fashion perhaps for the last few years. It's having a bit of a resurgence now, I would say. I think there's some really exciting work showing. Yeah. And we're showing some of it here as part of this open.
I think painting, I mean, I although I don't present painting in Kunstram, I think it's never going to go away. The history and the tradition is always here. And I think there are some great painters represented in the show, that whether that's coming from maybe a more naive perspective or a more precise kind of classical portraiture side of presenting artworks, but yeah, I don't think fashion is what we should be thinking about. It's about what's good work and exciting and interesting and accessibility, and I think there's a bit of something for everyone. Yeah, which is exactly what an open should be, isn't it? I should hope so. In terms of the work of Sarah Entwistle, who's won the major prize for the Open, how familiar with her work were you? I didn't know of her work at all, actually, and I think that's the exciting thing, is to come across this new practice, and there was something in the visuals and the use of kind of handmade materials, and how that's also linked into a criticality, linking to the archive and architecture and her own history relating to her family. So the work was created in response to her grandfather's archive, so he was an architect, and although she'd never met him, she's responded to a lot of the notes and works within his practice and the annotations, and I think there's so many levels to the work. It's visually very delightful. There's this use of materials, so the carpet is made by a weaver in Morocco, so it's very much, it's not a mechanical process, it's a personable process. It's personable and personal. And traditional. And yet such a contemporary piece of work. And I think because it's touching on all of those levels, it really felt like as a group, after kind of selecting all the works and then having to go through that discussion of who can we award this to, it just seemed very apparent. I think we were all in agreement. It was just like, no, really, there's something here that has so much strength to it that we think would work for the prize. So Richard Wathen, who's been awarded the exhibition prize, again, what was it particularly about his work that caught your imagination, and how do you think he'll benefit from the showing of his work at MOSTYN? Well, I didn't know Richard's practice, but I was completely enamoured by the works. So they're very elegant portraits of these figures, which you don't really know what age they are, and they're very magical, so they're called moonbathers. So the kind of the palette is very unique and striking, as well as kind of maybe referencing Gainsborough and that kind of level of portraiture, but in a magical way. In previous maybe opens, I've been very specific about a brief or a kind of topic. So I'm looking for this. Yes, and I think that usually narrows down a selection quite a lot. But I think what's unique about this open is that it is so truly open, and the level, 700 applications is quite a lot to go through. Maybe using with up to 5 works per person. If you think about the process, it's quite intense.
Yeah.
But that's also really exciting because you wouldn't get to come across all of these works because of usually it's not for everyone to put their works into an open. So I suppose it was the breadth of it which was the strength, and then thinking about it within this locality, everything's so unique here in the gallery, like the layout of the gallery, and I just think
so you have to take into account that as well with when you're selecting the works as well, what's going to work in this space.
I mean, the great thing is that this space is so big and so bright, so we've had some quite big paintings and having the luxury of being able to do that, and some big sculptural works as well. It's a rare.
But then you was quite brave in choices because we've had to build a new film showing area just purely for the exhibition, which is a new thing for us.
Oh right.
So this is like, again, we've had smaller spaces, but I think that's the most ambitious film showing space we've had in quite a while.
Yeah, I think it's really important to show film works in the best way possible, and having the black box is really important. But also, I think particularly for Alfredo, using that black box and the kind of exterior in a more creative, curatorial way to present works around it as well, and kind of
I think it becomes an object in itself almost, doesn't it? It's a really nicely crafted thing.
Yeah, and I think that room will have a different feel to it as well. It's kind of pushing a little bit away from the white cube. There's a lot of exposed
in fact,
wood.
It's slightly off angle.
I think hopefully that's a chance. Well, it's a chance for me to experiment a little bit, but also to kind of play around with the pairing of works as well.
So for the last week or so, you've been up in Llandudno, and you've been hanging the work or selecting the work, printing the work, display, getting ready to mounting, what have you, working with Mark Hughes and his tech team. So how's that been? Because obviously you see these works on screen, you obviously have an idea of their dimensions and the size, but when it comes to actually unpacking the work and creating it, and then having all this work sat on a floor in a white space, where do you start?
I think the first thing is to unpack everything and look at it, because like you say, you never, even though you read the dimensions, you never get the sense of the tactility or kind of what it is until you see it in the space, and it becomes very clear what goes where. I think for some certain
you have this
work,
sort of sense of how it needs to work.
But I think it's very much laying things out, standing away, thinking about it, moving it, and there's kind of very subtle kind of movements in the gallery until it feels right, and that's quite a lot of intuition in that. Obviously with the screen works, they have to go in very specific places that are dark, but it's playing around and having a tech team who can just hold it and really position it for you. I mean, that's a luxury. I don't usually get to have 3 techs who can do all of the lining up for me, so they're really great.
And what advice would you give to artists who are thinking about submitting for opens? Like you say, you've judged quite a few of them now, or been involved in a selection. What sort of advice would you give to any artist who's thinking about submitting, not just to the MOSTYN Open in 2 years' time, but sort of other opens as well? What are sort of some of the easy mistakes to make? Or
simplicity is always important. So having a really good image. First off,
the quality of the image that they submit.
Yes. I mean, the work will not stand alone unless the image, to see it, the image itself isn't perfect. So good lighting, clear labelling, and if there is a brief description, being very succinct about the description of the works.
And that doesn't have to use art speak or...
No, I think sometimes it can be overly articulated. I think you've got to be clear about what it is, what it's about.
The intention of the work, the symbolism of whatever image you've used, to kind of like give people a bit of background into why that work looks like it does.
Yeah, but also for the first selections, let's just say there are 700, or usually in my case it's around 300 works. You don't have much time in that first viewing.
So that first image is so important.
It has to be very clear, and then once the attention's grabbed, then that's when the next level comes in, which is the kind of deeper understanding of the work.
The People's Prize is given out at the end of the Open, which will be in approximately October. And so visitors to the gallery are going to be invited to vote for their favourite as part of the exhibition. If people are coming in here and thinking, what should I do? Who should I vote for? How am I supposed to know? Apart from sort of gut reaction, which is a perfectly acceptable reason to vote on. What would you say to people? Is it something they feel that emotional connection with?
I mean, I think it's really great to have a People's Prize. You get feedback then about what people want and what people are interested and exciting
I think
about.
historically, the public here has always gone for a really different piece of work to the ones that the selectors have gone for as well, which I think is a really nice balance. It should be, you know.
I think go with your gut instinct, and if you're drawn to it, and maybe read the text about the works and get a sense of what means something to you.
Yes.
I don't think there is any right or wrong as to what's a good artwork. They're all great artworks, but it's what you can get something out of, and I think that's the main reason to select a work.